good morning. Wishing everyone a happy Easter celebration out there, even though it's a quiet one and everyone is celebrating at home, but then we're still happy to be alive to see another Easter in the year 2020. You're welcome to our program this morning. The program is Summit, where we update you on happenings nationally and internationally in all spheres of the society. My name is Jumoke Michaels. Banji, good morning.
Jumoke, good morning. Wish you a blessed Easter, and just as I wish our numerous viewers that, I thank God on their behalf that they are actually witnessing Easter, irrespective of the fact that it's low-key. Yesterday, churches all over the country actually celebrated Easter in a very low-key manner, just see 10 people or less. Our governor in the state, that's Governor Sanwo-Olu and his wife, actually marked Easter in their private living room. But of course, we thank God for the gift of life. Now we're all here to celebrate Easter 2020, and we pray to survive this pandemic that's actually ravaging the entire world. My name is Banji Busari. It's yet another fresh edition of Summit.
Yesterday on Summit, the issue of the lockdown is actually cascading into another level of, should I call it events or scenario, majorly in Ogun State and Lagos. A lot has been happening in the last 2-3 days, seeing that hoodlums are beginning to harass and disturb people in the neighborhood, and it's a very issue of a great concern. Well, before the program continues, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we apologize for that break. It's due to a technical fault here in the studio. Well, welcome again to the program, and I wish you a happy Easter. Like I said before we went on that break, a lot is happening as far as security in the country, especially now in Lagos and the state, where hoodlums have taken over the neighborhood, harassing and disturbing residents, and is a huge issue of concern. Well, joining us to discuss this morning, we have joining us Mr. Bola Oba, a public affairs analyst and a friend of the house. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again.
Happy Easter, sir.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter to the viewers, and my heart goes out to those who have lost members of the family, because I've got friends in England. 4 of my personal friends in England have given up to this COVID-19. So for those who are watching and who are a bit skeptical and cynical, show me somebody who has died.
You have 4 of them.
4. 2 of them from Abeokuta, one being a high chief to the Alake of Egba, who owns used to own a major restaurant in southwest London, Brixton, called Majestic. God bless his soul.
May his soul rest in peace. Amen. Here in Nigeria, we have lost just about 10. But that's still not good news. I know countries that have lost no one. So we have nothing to actually celebrate when it comes to, some people say, after all, we have not lost thousands. But even 10 is a big number. But
10 relative to the number of those who have been tested. Because the problem in Nigeria fundamentally now is that our percentage of testing to our population is grossly low.
Grossly low. You can say that again because, Jumoke, in Nigeria, as at date, we have just tested 5,000 people.
Out of
over 200 million Nigerians. In Ghana here, our neighbor here, Ghana has actually tested over 37,000 residents.
The population
and
of
Ghana is less than 100 million.
The population of Ghana is barely above Lagos. Lagos is 22. Ghana is less than 30 million functionally.
So, South Africa has tested about 80,000 residents.
Many of us are working.
Egypt has tested over 25,000 now.
Many of us
and
are
all
working.
These countries have population far lower than Nigeria. So it's something to actually worry about.
The issue on that is that you know, we had Dr. Olubogi here last week, and he was saying that even if people come out to be tested, you voluntarily come to be tested. He said they still give preference to those who are obviously
who are symptomatic.
Yes, who obviously have. So even if people go,
is a function.
Tested,
is a function
the
of.
materials are not there.
It's a function of the fact that the resources to even undertake the test are not available. The infrastructure is small and weak. As of today, Lagos State is the only place in Nigeria where they can do more than 1,000 tests per day. And Lagos is giving emphasis, rightly so, to those who are symptomatic, not asymptomatic. They want to test those who are already manifesting the symptoms of the ailment.
Let me ask you, the secretary to the federal government, that's Bobs Mustafa, actually came out last week and gave us some shocking news, saying that it was a big discovery for him, that COVID-19 has actually exposed, he was shocked that COVID-19 has actually exposed the huge infrastructural decay in our healthcare system.
Welcome to reality.
Now, I don't know how, after 4 years in office of this administration, he would just be discovering that.
You see, COVID-19 is a pandemic that has stricken, anxiety into the hearts of men all over the world. But Nigeria, I hope at the end of all this problem, I hope Nigerians would have the reason to thank God, because some of the fault lines and cleavages of what we pretend to be a society, they are now practically slapping us to reality. The chief of staff to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria,
that's about right,
allegedly or reportedly got positive COVID-19. They couldn't fly him out. I'm reliably informed that he's in Nigeria. It speaks to the delusion that we have lived for so long a time. He has to be treated in Nigeria. The medical doctors that they scorned, the people that they treated condescendingly are those now. Even in England, I was telling some people in London yesterday, I said now, the arrogance. I was a member of the Conservative Party, mark you, a card-carrying member, paying fee. In fact, in 1997, the Conservative Party picked me as the candidate of the party in London Borough of Greenwich then, St. Mary's Ward. The lead councillorship candidate is a two-candidate constituency, or it was then. I was the candidate of the party. But you know what? Over time, the arrogance of the young persons who have risen to become the leaders of the party, they speak down at people. I was telling somebody yesterday in London, I said, at least I saw sobriety in the face of Boris Johnson. Because these are people who just tell you, the market will solve the problem. People are not this thing. The people that they are condescendingly be talking down to his life, and he was thanking them yesterday.
He actually thanked them.
COVID-19, Oshego, is bringing people to reality.
It's bringing people to their senses.
So what reality has he actually brought to us in Nigeria from that statement, from the discovery?
Your topic for today, why less than 1 month, people should stay home, rightly so, because we are fighting a pandemic. But you know what? The underbelly of society that has no form of systemic sustenance, those whose sustenance is basically on a day-by-day basis. See how some of them have turned to hoodlums and criminals, disturbing precincts between Ogun and Lagos State. We ain't seen nothing yet. If this thing has to last a couple of more weeks, those of us who live in gated estates and pretend to think that we are safe, the Magodos of this world, the VGCs of this world, what is the distance of VGC to Ikota? Ikota today in Lagos, what is the distance of VGC to Ajah? Ikota and Ajah today in Lagos will give you minimum of 1 million young persons, especially male, who don't have anything practical doing. They live on sustenance. And some people will live in delusion inside VGC. That because they are rich. We ain't seen nothing yet. We are moving at it. It's a COVID-19. We will look. When we're coming now, somebody in your where they manage the console, I was telling them that they are fortunate that their jobs are some of the safest now as we speak on the face of the earth. If this COVID-19 ends today, if it ends today, before the airline business can go into what it used to be, before the stoppage of active aviation activities around the world, it will take another 6 months to 1 year. You know why? Immigration situation and immigration management circumstances will change now. You cannot only get visa and come to my country anymore. Somebody will put something on your head. They will test you this thing. We ain't seen nothing yet.
All right.
So
okay, yeah. The lockdown, the 14-day lockdown is actually supposed to end tonight.
Tonight.
Yeah, it will complete 14 days tonight.
As for us in Lagos and
for us in
FCT.
Lagos, FCT and
Ogun joined later.
Well, we joined later.
oh, the governor of Ogun reasonably, the governor of the Ogun State did what was reasonable. He pleaded to the federal government to give the people at least 3 working days to get their acts together. Because the federal government was a bit melodramatic about how we went about it too. Lagos was already keeping a low activity of management and keeping, encouraging people to keep the social distancing etiquette as rigorously as possible. Less than 24 hours, the federal government just said, Lagos, Ogun, Federal Capital Territory, lockdown.
All right. After that instruction, which is meant to end today, the World Health Organization, NCDC, has warned against easing the COVID-19 lockdown.
They are professionals. They have to do their jobs. And
because in the face of all that Nigeria is already turning into right now, is it something that should be considered, seeing that even our communities are seemingly not safe?
I was a guest on a TV program last week, and I implored the Lagos State government, especially the governor, at the end of the 14-day lockdown, let's review policy back to how Lagos was managing it before. Lagos was not encouraging people to go out, and Lagos was also encouraging people to adhere strictly to the social distancing etiquette. But Lagos had not then, and that was even before the Americans came up with the fact that if you are going into the public sphere, you must cover your nose and your mouth with clothing material. Lagos had not then introduced that. Now let's make it mandatory that if you want to go out, don't renew the lockdown. Encourage people to still, if they can afford to, stay at home. But if you can't afford to and it's compelling that you have to go out, take some complementary measures for public safety. Handkerchief. You know the handkerchief that Omonimoto used to dance with when I was growing up in Mushi? That was a handkerchief. You can improvise it to, in fact, is far more effective than some of the cheap materials that people have speedily brought in from China. I was watching a lady in Chicago testing imported mask from China, and another one she picked from the US. The one in China was allowing breath to put off flame. The one, you know what? Italy had to return some medical, including mask, from China. Don't let's delude ourselves.
Had to reject.
Look, handkerchief. Just make it mandatory. If the COVID-19 law that Lagos passed would have to be a bit returned. That is why you have a sitting legislature.
Okay, now let's look at the incident that Jumoke referred to in the opening. That's the lawlessness that
and
actually
encourage consistent washing of hands and use of
Sanitizers.
coronavirus fighting sanitizers, because also I would rather wash my hands than use some of these things that have been paraded as sanitizers now. Because you know what? I'm not a scientist. I don't walk around with a laboratory. Some of the things.
okay, those who are actually the culprits, those who were actually those who waged war, so to speak, against the residents over the weekend could be said to be miscreants. The cultists, the lawless people in their society. Let's actually tag them criminally minded people. Many Nigerians who are not criminally minded, who are forced to stay at home, now may have to be asked to stay longer than they expected. Now, I'm looking at the entire scenario. Now, how many of us can afford to be lawful now in the next 2 weeks if it is extended?
In a country without a social welfare package, we are practically asking, we don't have a systemic social welfare package. And to be honest with you, in the last 1 week especially, I've been so shocked. Some people who I never thought could beg for money, who had sent text messages and SMSs, to me and my wife. I'm telling you, so shocked. And you know what? What the government is doing is sheer pantomime, not palliative. You know what is called pantomime? A comedic form of drama. This is pantomime, not palliative. You know why I'm saying that? It is practically impossible for the government to feed everybody. And the National Social Investment Office, working with the World Bank, when this government came into power, that is the Buhari government 4 years ago, collated a database of the most vulnerable in our society that actually the Jonathan government began. But as we speak, it's been after the collation of that database that we now know that Nigeria held the infamy of becoming the world capital of poverty. So, if the parameters that were used under the Jonathan government with the World Bank to collect those informations were to be put to test again now, many people would have gone on that. So I'm sitting here now, the government is still working with that database, and more people have dropped down below the poverty level. So I'm sitting here, your question is a conundrum. The question answers itself. What will happen in the next 1 week? Because in the next 1 week, if people are watching me, those that have sent the hot, look, in the last 2 weeks, I have sent nothing less, we don't want to go into it, but minimum of about 50 persons that have sent. I cannot longer afford it because I don't know when this will end now. And me too, I have to be looking at the total, not to be a beggar.
Yeah.
My brother, this is showing major cleavages in how our pretense to society is practically being yanked, being made messy.
But do you think that the president himself really doesn't have a holistic picture of what's
He does not. I'm
because
sorry.
every time he speaks, he continues to talk up, he continues to reassure, he continues
He can only
to
do that.
encourage, but that the words are not meeting up with the acts we are seeing.
One of the responsibilities you walk into when you become the cheerleader of the team is that whether your team is playing well or is not playing well, it behoves you to be the chief encourager. Let's be fair to him on that. He has to reassure people. But the truth, as we speak, is that even most businesses, because many of our businesses in Nigeria are built around rent seeking. I know somebody in government who will give me a contract. So we don't hold data. We don't hold data as important. I was reviewing this was about 8-9 months ago. I was reviewing how, because some things from when I was a boy in Mushin, I used to slap myself to reality sometimes. I was reviewing how a Bangladeshi would come to Lagos and start a bike taxi service, a motorbike hailing taxi service, and it was at a point letting people pay as low as 10 naira. They would take them from one point to the other, and those who were riding those bikes were earning minimum of 40 to 50,000 naira every week. And I said, I need to know this business model. You know what? I discovered that the guy was trading more on the data he was mining with every transaction done on OPay. That was why he had OPay bike, OPay money transfer, OPay this thing. Data is the new oil. It was all those data he was selling to companies from banks. You want me to shock you? Some of those data were sold to politicians during electioneering campaigns. Because everyone that carries a mobile phone now is a walking gold mine, especially in a jurisdiction like Nigeria. In Europe, there's what is called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. If I collect data from you, either the information you give me direct or the information I expunge from you as a result of having control over some vital instruments around you. Most of our watches now have chips. Your mobile phone have chips. This thing, you know what? What is the business model of companies like Facebook, Twitter, and co? They sell data. Politicians all over the world, they go buy those data when there's election. As I'm talking to you now, the business model of that guy was not the bike that people were hailing to take them from Oshodi to Ikeja. It was the data that he was mining from it, and he was selling big. I was shocked.
Okay, now the NLC has actually called on the federal government to save jobs after this COVID-19, that there must not be job losses. Now, how realistic is that? I'm aware that in some countries, like especially US, there have been job losses close to about 20 million. In Zimbabwe, wages, some private entrepreneurs are saying that they will not pay wages because as a result of COVID-19. How much of our jobs can we actually keep after this? I'm talking about Nigeria.
All the governments of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, all the governments, cumulatively, on the 3 strata of governance in Nigeria, local, state, and federal, the total level of employment they provided in the Nigerian business space cannot be more than 10 to 15%. So if all governments employ less than 20% of the working age population, can they retain more than those people on their own books? Will they force me, after they've made me close down for going to 1 month now, because we closed down before they closed down, so as to protect people? I'm a socially responsible employer. And we paid them. As a director, even my allowance was not paid last week. As a director, every Friday, I get a stipend. It was not paid.
So you're transferring that to your employees?
Can I give what I don't have? And you know what? I don't want to be mentioning names. There are major companies in Lagos that are owing me money that if they pay ordinarily, I can guarantee minimum of 50 to 60 of my employees. I can guarantee them.
Are you suggesting there was no buffer? You didn't have buffer? I mean,
So
period of boom.
I will exhaust all the buffer.
At least for to take care of your employees for this period.
I will exhaust it. So when they open, when we have to go back to business, I will then go and be looking for those who will borrow us money to just open again.
You're painting a picture of a very bleak.
It's reality. It's reality. And you know what? You want me to shock you? This business I'm talking about, or these businesses I'm talking about, at least two of the businesses I own, I'm a part owner of. They are on the top end of what you can call SME. There are people on the middle rung and the lower end of SMEs who are basically existential and subsistence. Where would they get money? Have they even been paying themselves?
All right, you can send us an SMS on the program to share your thoughts, your fears, and probably your challenges on this issue of the COVID-19. How are you experiencing it at your own end? You can send us an SMS to the number we display on the screen. Please, just an SMS. We'll not be able to pick your calls. Send us an SMS with your name and your location, and we'll read out your message and maybe address your questions and fears on the program.
On security, yesterday when I first got, I was getting these messages. I didn't know when I had to go to a forum where Tunji Disu, the head of RS, because there was a point in my younger life, just when I departed these shores, there was a club we started a motion that he also joined. It was not so much of a motion board, but he had friends who were some of the foundation members. So I had to go and post on some of the things sent to me about security from Agbado, especially the Lagos part of it. I posted it there and I put an audio note. Tunji, about time we did something about this, because you know what? This society will be going into chaos if we don't do something dramatic about it. Forget about the niceties of democracy now. Go pick them in their houses. Pick their parents too. You know what? You understand? That will be for the immediate. But after COVID-19, government and people like us in the middle class, we have to wake up and know that we have to devise system that will at least give a facade of unshaking this guy to some form of welfare package and use it to compel them to skills and enterprise empowerment. And I tell people who ask me where would the government get the money, and they say the government does not need money. When I was leading Mushi in the late 80s, there was no link between Ogumoku Street and Kayode Street. I came home in 1992, and I came home, before I came home, I sent a vehicle down. And one of my younger ones who wanted to drive said, Egbon, don't worry, I will just take you through Ogumoku Kayode. And I looked at him and said, are you crazy? How can you connect Ogumoku from Kayode? I said, Egbon, don't worry. Somebody who was not a PhD holder in engineering, was not even a graduate, just improvised a tarmac that is just 1/4 of connection between Ogumoku and Kayode. And from around 1991, they said, because I saw it in 1992, till today, they used to collect 20 naira there. Now they are collecting 50 naira. Every time I go there, whenever I drive through, I see minimum of 4 ladies. 2 facing here, 2 facing there. Is 24/7 employment opportunity. I see at a point, you know why they have to put APC, that is Armored Personnel Carrier of Police there now? At a point, the cultist hoodlums in Mushin were using it as a point of killing themselves because they want to be controlling the money. Anytime you get there now, you see policemen and APC seated there. And I know the business model is also paying them. You know what? The children that you refuse to train and empower will make a mess of the house that you thought you have built. Look, further down the road, less than say 1.5 kilometers down the road, Shillong could connect Vono. Nobody has done it. This is the only society where I functioned, where things that define how middle-class people should use the underdogs of society to consolidate their own wealth and create sustainable form of subsistence for those who are there, who are under them, they never employ it.
Now, last week, the federal government actually sought the approval of the National Assembly for a 500 billion intervention fund. Now, towards COVID-19. Nobody knows how that money would actually be applied to our economy, whether it's strictly for COVID-19 or to boost stimulus and all that. But again, the SERAP, that's an anti-corruption agency, is asking that it is 7 billion naira that was actually earmarked for National Assembly renovation should be disbursed amongst the states to ease the problems of these socio-economic problems that are actually arising at the state level. What's your take on all of this?
My take is that SERAP, if I say I support SERAP, people will say, what would you say? Pander to populism. But you know what? Yesterday, with all this COVID-19, day before yesterday, Saturday, with all this COVID-19 all over the world, I took a class. My facilitator was in London. 7 of us in Nigeria took part in that live class with Zoom. Yeah. And in that class, 2 persons were in London, including the facilitator. 7 of us were in Lagos. Abi, there is nothing that says legislaturing cannot be done, even if the roof of the National Assembly were to be leaking big time now. And I doubt it's leaking big time because they are still holding sessions there. So I'm sitting here thinking, we are not serious yet. Those monies may seem big amounts of money, but when you use those monies the way we conventionally use monies in Nigeria, they will amount to nothing and still leave our problems the way they are. I'm not even one who wants to encourage government to be throwing monies at problems. I'm one who believes that it is the responsibility of government to identify a business model that will allow majority of our citizenry to be empowered and let the private sector, those who are in the private sector and creative enough to run it. Look, the greatest collector, as we speak on the face of the earth now, the greatest collector of data. You know, I have a construction services company in Dubai. As I'm talking to you now, with all the seeming lockdown and whatever, you know they are working and they are processing documents because the government of Dubai, which is just one of the federating units of the United Arab Emirates, one of the 7 federating units of the government of Dubai, still does most of its business because they run an e-government. You want to renew your visa? You cannot say because of COVID-19. In Nigeria today, including in England, where we copied all the bad things. England is a useless society that we ultimately. I tell them in England. I'm telling you. No, I'm telling you because you see, those who are in government in Nigeria, they go to England to go and copy nonsenses. As we speak now,
If you want to renew your immigration visa in Nigeria, if you're an immigrant, you can't do it. My boy, my manager in Dubai, Keme, his name, just renewed his immigration visa. I asked him, I said, Keme, how did you do it? He said, sir, you do it online. 70% of government activities in Dubai, you do online. Lagos State government has enough, far more number of intellectuals exposed to the best of e-governance services across the world. In this government, this particular government, from the governor to this thing, Lagos State government has them, and yet they just want to function the old, typical way, supply side government. Budget the money, bring the money, allow so much leakage, pretend that you are putting money to a problem that you will budget again for next year. Let's keep on doing it. The hoodlums are now at Agbado Abi. They are now at Agbado Ebeda and go. They will soon be coming in the direction of Magodo, direction of VGC. You will know. I tell my wife.
Jumake, you have any messages for us?
No, it's a reality. We are in it already. How can Dubai be functioning up to about 70% as we speak?
Okay.
Please, I ask that you send SMS. You're almost not allowing me to see the messages because people are really calling instead of sending us SMS. Please send an SMS. Maybe you ask another question.
Okay. Earlier on in the course of this discussion, you said those who fail to train their children should actually be held responsible for what's happening. Now, is it the parents?
No.
Literal, okay, is that literal? Okay.
I was using a Yoruba program because I'm trying to restrain myself. You see, I think
even at that, even at that. Now, government has actually arrested over, close to 200 miscreants, these cultists and all that. Now, I need to ask you this because just last week, the Minister of Interior actually ordered the release of 2,600 inmates, to actually forestall decongestion in the prisons. Now, if you continue to arrest these hoodlums, and this thing the end does not seem to be in sight, these hoodlums will continue to terrorize us from the look of things. Where does this police intend to keep them?
Let me tell you one of the things that will frustrate the police. This morning, yesterday night, from around 12 a.m. to around 1 a.m., because I slept a bit late, I was watching how the Commissioner of Police of Ogun State took the fight to the hoodlums on the Ogun State side of the Malay. 150 people arrested. They sat them down. All their implements of criminality were displayed. This morning, on a very popular morning show, one of the presenters asked the police commissioner, so those who are in detention now, what will be their fate? When will you take them to court? He said he was already relating with the judiciary at Ogun State. The point is COVID-19 is on. As I'm talking to you now, 70% of court sessions are holding in Dubai if they want to prosecute you. Because it's e-service. The man, that police commissioner, would have to wait for the court to hold. And in the lockdown of COVID-19, the court may not hold. It's not an essential service. And you know what? Some idiots will come out and be throwing human rights and fundamental human rights books at him.
Did you say idiots?
Look, you know what?
Are you saying idiot because of the exigencies of the moment?
You know what? I am a very pronounced supporter of democracy. But I have come to the conclusion that the American type, European type, especially American and European, British type democracy that we run is much of a delusion in a country like Nigeria. How was China able to control 60 million people with artificial intelligence and this thing and lock them down, and only one member of the family could come out to do shopping because they had the face this thing of everybody? There's an extent to which we must carry this democracy and stop it, because now it's about existentialism, all this nonsense about democracy. You are throwing fundamental human rights at me when boys in a particular neighborhood were going from house to house, raping people, robbing them. Human rights? Human rights.
Okay, let me read this message. Good morning, everyone in the studio. I'm Tony from Saltwater. Please, I want you to help us reach out to the Minister of Disaster and Humanitarian Commission, Hajia Sadia Farouk, to please pay the stipend of NPower beneficiaries for the month of March. Hunger is killing Nigerians. More palliatives for Nigerians, less need for isolation centers. I don't understand that. But these stipend is talking about...
Those are supposed to be in the system.
Yeah, it's even what they've been doing in the north.
No, let's be very careful the way we go about it. One has to be very responsible. Because some of my friends were actually politely lambasting me yesterday when I published something. You see, the National Social Investment Program was an innovative program that this government invented. And it was supposed, for me, as a supporter of the government, and you know how I used even your program to support this government coming to power. It was supposed to be the birthing of a social welfare system.
That's the 5,000 naira.
No, the National Social Investment. Yes. Now you have the program targeting farmers, traders, young unemployed graduates, those who want skills empowerment. But you know what? As a result of intra-party politicking in APC, a program that was going on well, one of the programs that helped the party to be re-elected, some just took it from where it was in the presidency, created a new ministry. The woman in the last 8 months has been, according to her, she spoke to Parliament, has been trying to have a handle of it. And somebody like that gentleman who sent in that text message, even though he is on the database, in the last 8 months, he's gotten almost nothing. Because the minister was up until Baba spoke last week that she went to physically cash. Ability to people get the footage. Handing 4 months this thing to cash, 20,000 naira. Cash. When India created 1.2 billion bank accounts for the lowlies of India up to this thing as a form of intermediation to bring people on the government database. We have not started governance. This is not about partisanship. It's not about whether Bola supports APC or this thing. The quality of people we have in government, and I'm sorry to say it, is not only at the national level, it's worse at the national level. But even in the states where you know the individual quality, the individual firepower of those who are in government, they are dropping ball big time. Lagos does not have. Lagos, which has a GDP that is bigger than all the countries on the west coast of Africa. All the countries of the west coast of Africa. No single country, not even Ghana, not Senegal, not Ivory Coast, has a GDP that matches Lagos. Lagos does not have a database of its unemployed youths.
If you take the argument further, let's look at the recent palliative that was actually given out by the Lagos state government. Many residents, particularly at the CDA levels, have called onto this program, alleging that the entire scheme was actually hijacked by the party men. Now, what's your reaction to it?
It's inevitable. It's inevitable. I was talking to somebody who was close to El Rufai, and that person said, El Rufai says, they say I'm giving contracts to my friend. Should I go and call my enemy and give them contracts? Look, 200,000 homesteads were prepared for. Yeah. Those 200,000 homesteads.
That's the first phase.
The first phase. The machinery that the government will use will be those who are either in government or in the know of government. Now, those people, the relevance that they have in government where did they get it from? From their constituencies. All politics, they say, I'm a very practical man.
It's local.
All politics, they say, you people finished it. I didn't say. So if anybody is delusive out there thinking, oh, they will first come and give it to those who are non-partisans.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Kolava, for being a part of the program today. And thank you, our viewers, and for all who have sent messages. We do appreciate you. Have a wonderful celebration and enjoy the lockdown. Bye-bye.
One thing I'm actually taking away is that nobody is immune to this attack by the miscreants in Agbado and all that. You are saying it may move to your area.
It's not that it will move. Look, 1 to 2 weeks more.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. My name is Banji Busari. See you on Wednesday. Bye-bye.